This is Bobby Shanks, author of the newly released book, Undateable, that is now available in Amazon as well as other online retailers. Get your copy today. I'm also joined by our show's producer, Ian Brown. Say what's up, man.
What's up, everyone? We're going to have an awesome show.
All right, let's just get down to business here. We are joined today by a super exciting, really fun and enthusiastic lady straight out of Seattle, Washington. Her name is Cora Boyd, and she is a dating and relationship expert. And Cora, I have been watching your stuff on YouTube and your Pillow Talk on Spotify, your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You are amazing. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us, here's something I'm kind of excited about. You started as a dating and relationship expert for over 2 years, specifically working with men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So prior to that, prior to starting my business, I was a matchmaker for 2 years. So I worked for a matchmaking company and basically got all of this insight into the backstage. It was like kind of like a backstage pass into the love lives of people all over the country, and just interviewing tons and tons of people and getting a lot of insight into themes and needs. And I noticed that in working with, in speaking with a lot of men that I was speaking to, I noticed that there was a desire and a need, even if not always directly spoken, to have spaces for education around how to navigate the realms of women and the realms of connecting with women and matters of the heart, and all of that good, juicy stuff. So when I started my business after transitioning from matchmaking to coaching, which I did really in kind of a teach a man to fish philosophy, where I was, yeah, I was just really seeing, thank you. I was really seeing how a lot of the mindset that clients or people that I was interacting with were bringing to matchmaking wasn't really, it wasn't really conducive or translating to the kind of connection that they were wanting in their love lives. And I was just seeing how it wouldn't matter. It didn't really matter so much if I, introduced someone to the quote unquote perfect person, if they were going to show up and do the same thing over and over again, that was kind of getting them the same result or the lack of result that was frustrating them in the first place. So I transitioned to coaching to empower people with long-term skills where they could feel really confident in their ability to create opportunities for themselves and really like shift into a different way of being that and step into more personal agency and clear up old patterns and just engage with the whole part of life in a totally different, empowered and fun way. And I chose to work with men specifically because I was seeing that need. And I was also seeing how so much of the resources or the dating content available for men, it was a lot of men telling other men how to connect with women.
Yep.
So I saw the need and I saw the gap there. And in my work with men, I now work with both women and men. And actually through my work with men, working really closely with men and deepening my own understanding of men and connecting with men myself as a woman, I opened up, I realized actually how much women also misunderstand men and how much support women actually need in that too. And how much, so much of that conversation is also women telling women. So, and there's a place for many voices in this conversation. I don't think that disqualifies anyone from being a part of the conversation. But what I really saw is that there is a necessity for spaces where we can have these kinds of honest conversations in a way that's alive. So I know with my male clients, like, this is happening under the surface, but part of the confidence they're building, part of the aliveness of the teaching and the learning that we're doing together is them interacting with me and them being vulnerable with me, and learning to connect with me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
it's very juicy territory.
let me ask a question. The number one thing that happens to me behind the curtain when people reach out to me, phone, text, direct message, because of what I do here where I'm doing it, is not a specific topic, but a theme, is they will ask me, well, what do I do in this scenario? And it usually has something to do around, and men and women alike, I might add, and it usually has something to do with something early in the relationship, to include even the initiation, or something early on. So that's what happens to me. What I would like to hear from you is, because people will be on the edge of their seat wanting to know this, in your opinion, right? Just shooting from the hip here, what is the number one thing, right? Either action or a specific topic that you seem to be reached out to about the most, or that you find yourself talking to the most with your clients?
Wow, such a good question. I also receive a lot of messages like that of like, what should I text them? What should I like?
Right.
What should I say? Oh, I got her number. Like, what should I say? Or like,
Oh
these
no,
very initial.
I got to the island. Now what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a huge theme that I see. And really, I think what we're talking about here and what we're seeing here is that so often the mindset people are in these early stages, it's like they're trying to get it right. They're trying, they think that there's this is the theme that I see. People think that there's a standard protocol and there's like a way to get it right. And they're often making decisions not from a place, not from the empowered place of like, actually, what do I want? What do I want to experience? Like, what kind of date would I want to go on? And what kind of connection do I want to create? And they're reaching kind of outside of themselves for like, how do I get this right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge theme that I see, and really what I do, and why I say that what I do really, it's personal empowerment through dating and relationships, and through not so much learning scripts and not so much like adhering to rules or standard protocol, but like understanding dynamics really deeply, and also connecting with yourself and like really getting clear on what it is that you want. Because I think what I see, how I see people perceiving the whole space is that like there's something that they have to get right, or there's some sort of script they have to follow, when like really love is like, we fall in love when we feel alive. We fall in love when we feel like there's something like happening between us and another person that is uniquely our own. And there are dynamics within that. There are things to understand about, like, you know, at what pace do you invest in a relationship? Like, how do you develop a relationship?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's all relative to the way that I teach it with my clients. It's almost like a language. I teach them to understand what variables to pay attention to, and what variables get to inform their decisions. So it's not like, how do I get this person to blah, 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 or like, what do I say? What do I text this person? It's what are you excited to talk about with someone? Like, what tone are you setting? Because you're setting the tone from the beginning.
I listened to this really cool podcast yesterday, and the host of that podcast said something that I'd never heard before, and I wrote it down, and here's what she said: reality is negotiable.
It was me.
It was you. And I am telling, I don't know if you've heard that or made it up, or if you've coined that phrase, but out of that whole thing and every that I listened to yesterday and what you just said, I agree with you. Like, I just want to take people and like, I just want to put my hands on their face and I just want to pull them in really close. And I just want to say, reality is negotiable. And that's basically what you just said.
Yes. Yes.
And that was yesterday. And I wrote it down. I'm actually working on another book and I thought, oh, that's going to slide in there somewhere. So if I write a book and it says reality is negotiable, you can circle that and put your name on it. Because that is absolute genius. So I have another topic. You have a couple publications and I think people, if they go to your website, what is your website? Real quick, let's put that out there.
It is coraboydcoaching.com.
Perfect. So if somebody goes to Cora Boyd Coaching and they sign up, give you name and email and stuff like that, it kind of puts them where they can get access to a couple manuscripts that you've written, one of which is called Flirting. What is it?
Well, I have a whole flirting school called
Flirting
Flirt Harder.
School. Flirt Harder. Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flirt Harder.
Come on.
Yeah, and I created that really because that for me, like to your question about themes and patterns, like one of the biggest obstacles or stopping points that I noticed in people that were coming to me is like, when you know how to flirting is just creating it's creating attraction. It's the art of creating attraction. So when you know how to do that, so much else in your love life follows. So I created that, and I have so many teachings and so much content around flirting because even with what we were just talking about of reality is negotiable, flirting is all about inviting a dynamic to go off script. It's all about saying it's saying something a little bit edgy, holding tension, creating tension. And I think it's such a fun skill, and it's such a specific dynamic because in every other area of life, we are conditioned and taught to dissolve the tension, right? Like something in a meeting starts to get tense. It's like, oh God, dissolve the tension, where it can feel counterintuitive and in flirting and dating of actually like, we want to create discomfort. We want to create and hold tension. That's why we call it sexual tension.
You are so my person. Like, you are my type of person. I am telling you. Like, I'm a golden retriever. I walk into a room and I just want to run and jump on everybody's lap and lick their face and see who will scratch me behind the ear. I love flirting. So let me ask you, because I do take.
I think the most pertinent question here is how do you flirt? Because I have no idea how to do that. I have
Help us. Give us some pointers. Give us a 1, 2, 3, something.
Totally. So, kind of in the broadest terms, flirting, it's really just an energy of play. It's really just bringing playfulness to the dynamic. And the way that I describe the energy of flirting is it's kind of this tension point, if you will, between a challenge and an invitation. So you're kind of challenging someone, and inherently when you're inviting someone to go off script, like you're saying something like out of the blue, like, I found you really attractive, and like holding the awkwardness of that moment, like holding the tension of that, right? Like
that's so beautiful.
It's a challenge.
I love
it.
It.
It's an invitation because there's warmth, there's encouragement. It's also a challenge because it's so direct that it's like a little bit, what do I do with that? And the challenge is like, what are you going to do with that? So in the broadest terms, the way that I start to initiate people into the ways of flirting, and really I see flirting, I love what you said, Bobby, too, of like, I see flirting as a lifestyle. It's not just, it's really flirting too. It's just playing with possibility. So when you're flirting with someone, you're just like playing energetically and conversationally with the possibility of what would it be like if we related like this? And you're seeing, you're inviting them to relate with you in that way. And you're also kind of challenging them to relate with you in that way. So that's how I describe it. And in the broadest terms, it's bringing, it's playing in the realm of possibility with someone and doing so in a way that is simultaneously challenging and inviting and holding the tension of that.
I love it. Holding the tension. So, I'm totally going to put myself on the spot here. I make no claim about being great at flirting or initiating initial contact with a woman, if it's regardless of location. It could be at the zoo, it could be, at the bar, it could be at church, whatever. But what I've learned, having been single, is, to your point, that I want to be sure that whatever I say, especially the first initial words and body language, I just want to make sure that whatever the response is, I won't be forgotten. It will be so intriguing and basically stop her so dead in her tracks that moment of tension that lasts 5 seconds feels much, much longer. I've actually gotten pretty good at it. And I hate to say like that because it's a little tacky and maybe sounds a little arrogant. But when you walk through life for decades like I did and never had that skill, and then in your 40s you get cast out into the sea of singles, you learn fast. Or you don't, or as you say, you don't get to play. You don't.
Yeah, I love a few different things you just said. The word you use, intrigue, that's a word I use in my teachings a lot, and helping people to understand that like attraction is all about creating intrigue, which is it's about evoking curiosity in what you say. Like this feeling of like, tell me more. I want to learn more. That's like the bread and butter of what actually creates attraction is intrigue. And another thing that came up as I was listening to you is something that's really fundamental to my teachings and really like the paradigm I invite people into with dating and relationships is embracing awkwardness. Like just like letting it be awkward because it is sometimes. And like even what I'm saying with flirting and holding tension, like part of navigating dating well and effectively is allowing things to be uncomfortable because that creates actually like attraction, like the physiological state of attraction is not particularly comfortable. Like it's like, oh, I'm like aroused, I'm intrigued, this is uncertain. It's a feeling of uncertainty. With the desire to learn more, right? And that's the same thing we're talking about, the same kind of energetics we're talking about in flirting is this going off script with someone. And when I say that too, I mean, that's another way I like to talk about reality being negotiable, is that like, there actually is not a script to follow. And that's when we feel most attracted to each other. And when we feel most intrigued is when we feel like a dynamic, we feel alert, we feel engaged because we don't actually know what's going to happen, right? Someone invites us to interact with us in a way that makes us feel alive because it's not routine. So that really is, that's the fun of it. And that's the thing to embrace. And what I love and what you said too, is it sounds like you're playing a game with yourself of like, okay, how could I say this thing that would create the most intrigue? And that's such a great way to approach dating, because we can't control anyone else. So you might as well create your own metrics and play your own game and have fun and let that magnetize people.
So I've got a scenario. Let's let the rubber hit the road here. So there is a gal pal of mine. I know her from the gym. She's a great gal. She's healthy and she's attractive, and she's squared away. And there is a guy in the gym. I'm not even really sure I know which one it is, to be honest, but she's really got this infatuation with this guy in the gym. And now she has a stoic personality. She doesn't have the, extrovert, cheerleader personality. Flirting is what I'm trying to say is flirting is probably not something that comes super natural to her from an initiation standpoint, but she just cannot seem to get this guy's attention. And I said, well, why don't you just initiate? And she's like, I attract, I don't chase. Which, and you know what? I respect that. I have a whole chapter in my book just for men. Yeah. And I talk about the number one responsibility of a man. And I don't care if it's personal, professional, parental, husband, wife, boyfriend, whatever. Like, number one responsibility to a carnal DNA level is men are responsible for initiating, period. Mm-hmm. And I make this whole argument, right? So we can agree or disagree. Mm-hmm. So, but when I told her, I said, look, here's all you got to do. You just walk up to him. I told her, I said, this is the best pickup line of all time. You just walk up to him and you put out your hand and you say, hey, my name is Beth. What's your name? And you just hold your hand right there. Uh-huh. And Cora, like, her chest got all red. Like, her skin, like up her neck, that like she was having an anxiety moment just at the very mention that I would say that to her. All right. So there's a little anecdote. Here's the question.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think of that? Do you, like, in that instance where, like, for example, in a gym, the guy walks around with his hoodie on and he's just getting down to business. He's got to be at work at a certain time. Is it okay for a gal who's like really interested just to walk up and say, whatever? What do you think of that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too.
Absolutely. And I think what's important too is that there's all sorts of moves that we can all make. And I think that something that a lot of women come to believe that I would love to shift is the idea that they don't have it, or like their job is just to kind of be passive or to wait for the dude, which is actually very disempowering, because it's like,
I agree.
So what I want to invite more women into, and I think this, there's different ways to look at it, because there's different, personal preferences. And like, I think it's great to, whatever is fine. A lot of people, I myself, have that preference of like, it's really attractive when a guy is in a directive energy and is initiating. And what I would want to invite women to understand and shift into is that you can make moves that are not, they're moves, but they're more in the energy of an invitation. So you can make it, that's still a move. That's still you being in your agency, right? And kind of like creating what you want, but you're basically clearing the space for him to step up. And what I would want to more women to realize too is that, like, guys, like, they want to know that their move is going to be well received, and they're looking for evidence and indicators, right? So if you're just like stonewalling them, like, they're probably not going to hit on you, because like they don't want to embarrass themselves, right? Like, it's a risk for them too. So have you ever heard about how, like, this is a good example of this in the 1700s? I'm kind of pulling this out of my ass. I don't know if that's exactly when, but
go for it.
So basically, women used to, they'd walk by a guy they were interested in, and they would drop their handkerchief intentionally, that like
the old bend and snap.
Exactly. So that's kind of an example, and there's all kinds of ways to do this. But if you're a woman who is, wanting to attract a guy who's in his kind of initiating directive energy, there are ways that you get to participate in that dynamic where you're like clearing the path, and you're actually creating opportunity and invitation for him to step up and do that. So you're also participating, and guys need that encouragement because like they're human beings. They're human beings, and y'all are human beings. We're all human beings, and men want to know that if they're going to make a move, they're looking for evidence, at least some evidence, and there is always risk involved. And that's part of embracing the awkwardness and just embracing the real life element of it. But they want to have some evidence that their move may be well received. So what women get to play in is like how to make moves in a way that your move is actually kind of an invitation. So when I was
I want to repeat something that you said that I've never heard before. And it's a nugget. There's been a lot of talk on this show with many guests that we've had now about feminine versus masculine energy, men who have feminine, women who have masculine, and each in their own genders and whatever. But you said something that I feel takes those things and neutralizes it.
Yes.
It pours the alkaline on the water so that it just neutralizes. And here's what you said. And I want everybody to hear this, but you said it as it directed by women or directed towards women. You said it allows you to stay in your agency. Mm-hmm. And that's really smart because what it said, the way I interpret it is it says to a woman, absolutely, you can be a woman and you can be feminine and whatever your femininity is to you. Maybe you are stoic or whatever, but you can be within your agency and still drop the hanky and be 100% an empowered woman. And I thought that was spectacular.
Thank you. Yeah. And really the language that I like to use with my clients is directive and receptive energies. So we all are able to do, right? We all get to access the full spectrum of these agencies in ourselves. And what creates attraction specifically in a hetero dynamic is polarity. It's someone being in a directive energy. And when I say directive, it's kind of like assertive, directive, right? Making the move and the initiation, right? And then someone is in the receptive energy, which is what we could understand as the feminine energy. And what, to your point, what I want to remind women of is that receivership is an active thing. It's so like if Bobby, I gave you a compliment, for example, right? And like you receiving that, there's an active receivership and like really allowing that to land and being like, thank you, right? Like there's agency in being in this receiving energy, and there's participation in being in this receiving energy. So I think that we've been so conditioned to understand it, or I just see a lot of women misunderstanding this of like that being in a feminine energy is passive when it's not. It's participatory. It's participating in active receivership and this energy of inviting.
Right.
Yeah.
You are right. I love it. I feel like we're like you're the feminine version of, like, if my book had been written by a woman, it would have been you.
Thank you. I actively receive that.
And I don't mean like, I'm not even trying to be complimentary. It just we have a very similar wavelength, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Ian,
as a quick follow-up. So I'm someone who is engaged and basically getting married in less than 6 months. And it's, first of all, it's a miracle that I even got this far, having no clue how to date or anything like that. But what is the difference between flirting and for a single person and a person in a relationship? Like, how do you keep that flirting energy going? Because a lot of our audience is single in a relationship, but all of them desire to be in a relationship of some kind. So when they finally find that relationship, how do they continue that flirting and continue that energy into their relationship?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's really about understanding attraction and emphasizing attraction. So understanding that attraction, there's so many elements to it, but really we are attracted to each other when we see each other doing shit we're good at, right? When we see someone in their aliveness, right? We see them on fire with someone, we see them in their zone of genius. And when we feel attraction really lives in how we're different. So Esther Perel, who's a psychotherapist, talks about this in different ways in her book, Mating in Captivity, which is really good. But this was the foundation of me coming to understand this. I also have a teacher who refers to it as merging and individuation, kind of this dynamic we do in relationships, and both are really essential to the health of the relationship, where like there's the merging, there's the togetherness, there's the commonality, the ways that we're the same. And there's also the individuation. There's like the space that we need ourselves. There's the ways that we're different. And as I said, a lot of attraction exists in the energy of polarity, and a lot of attraction exists in our individuality and how we're different and how we contrast each other. So in terms of long-term relationships, I think that it can be easy to just slide into the merging all the time of like, oh, we're the same, we're doing all this stuff together, right? We're brushing our teeth together. And what's really invites in the attraction is knowing that the ways that you are different, and the ways that you're kind of like marveling in the mystery of each other, and that intrigue that is created by the individuation is what keeps the attraction alive. So it's really in putting this into practice, it's knowing that and feeling, when you feel moments of attraction, like saying it, right? Like feeding that energy. I love consciously, that. Right? Drawing attention to it, allowing the sexual energy to be present all the time, or, not 24/7 necessarily, but extending far outside of a sexual context, and really like calling attention to it when they say, it's like, that was hot when you were, rocking that meeting. I heard you in the other room, like expressing that attraction. And like that attraction is often born of like seeing your partner in like alive in their individuality. So just highlighting that, and then always prioritizing, of course, the merging, the togetherness, but also knowing that the individuation is, it's essential to the merging. So we come together and we merge and we enjoy it so much. And like Esther Perel talks about how, in order for there to be desire, there has to be some sense of distance sometimes. Yeah. And some sense of difference.
So, I wrote a book on dating, and I have one chapter in my book specifically for married people. I was married for almost 2 decades, and I believe that if a married couple, whether they've been married for 6 weeks, 6 years, 60 years, doesn't matter, they should continue to date, because I hear, and I'm sure you do too, about especially during early childhood years when you're having your kids, if that's what a couple is doing, It can be very taxing and very time consuming. And I think it's in those years, especially, that just dating your spouse with intention, with design and purpose, not just saying, hey, you want to go grab a burger tonight, but actually, saying, hey, babe, like on Monday morning saying, hey, I had a great weekend. By the way, I've made table reservations for us 7 o'clock this Friday. So we have that to look forward to all week. See what I mean? Just being really intentional.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I believe, actually, I believe passionately that when a marriage exhibits those habits, and they're from a place of very genuineness, like I freaking love my wife and she's hot and I'm gonna date her as I don't care how long we've been married. You know what I'm saying? Right. So
Yeah.
the tension's still there, the sexiness is still there.
Right.
I think that one act alone, despite any other act, but that one act alone can stave off major marriage problems.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And I love what you said. I
just date your girl.
Yeah, date your girl.
Take
and
that
romance,
sexy ass out.
Yeah, exactly. And romance can take many forms, but you did it really well. Really, what it is it's bringing intentionality and the ceremony of gesture to the relationship, and just like the amplification of specialness in your experiences. So like having, a special dinner, or like, it doesn't even have to be how we think that, oh, romance means going out to dinner. Like, we all love going out to dinner. That's great, right?
Yeah.
But it's really about the intention of creating special experiences and making gestures and creating ceremony that's specific, that's thoughtful and specific and based on what the other person loves, so that they get to feel, oh, this person knows me, they see me. And I always laugh with my clients, like one of my male clients one time we were talking about this concept, and he was like, well, I just feel like, some of the things that are like romantic things just don't feel genuine to me, like giving flowers. And I was saying, that's totally okay. Like, it's not actually about the flowers. It's about the intention and the thoughtfulness and the gesture. And I was dating this guy once who, and I gave this example to that client where I was like, one time I had this guy show up to a date with me with a plastic lobster that he bought from the gas station. And like, that had the same effect, because I have a lobster tattoo on my back. I have a thing about lobsters. So it was thoughtful. It was specific to me. It was a gesture and a symbol that showed me that like he wanted to delight me and that he was thinking about me when we weren't together. So like, it doesn't matter if it's flowers or a plastic lobster. It's really about the intention and the gesture of it.
All right, hold on now, lobster girl. You're in Seattle. So when you say you like lobster, you're not messing around.
No, I'm not.
Where do you go? Well, sidebar. Let's do this.
Sidebar. Actually,
30 seconds.
Is connected because one of my absolute favorite things above lobsters is oysters. Like I'm a fiend for oysters. Yeah.
Totally, me too. Favorite seafood.
Hands down. Loves oysters. And that is something that my boyfriend often does for me, is takes me out to oysters, because like 10 out of 10 times I'm going to be stoked that we're having oysters. So wait,
it's a place called Oysters?
Oh, no, there is a place called...
No, I'm looking for a place to go in Seattle. Hook me up.
In Seattle? Okay, there's a place called Taylor Shellfish Farms, which is actually, it's about an hour and a half out of the city, and it's on the water, and it's a shellfish farm where you can shuck your own oysters. So that's what I would recommend.
Good. Awesome. Okay, so now that I totally derailed us, Ian, give us something. You got anything?
No, I was hoping you would.
Okay, so I kind of do have something. Tell us about not Flirt Harder, but the other one.
Magnetics Love School or Loving Men? Okay,
Loving Men. Loving Men. Oh my gosh. Yes.
So
Tell
Loving
us.
Men is a program that I created with one of my collaborators. Her name is Kat Munoz. And it's a program for women to better understand men and how to communicate with men in a way that's effective, and actually how to express love and affection towards men in a way that they know to receive. Because what I see, and why we created this program, is I see a lot of men trying to interact with women as men, and women trying to interact and connect with men in the way that they would with women, because that's the way we know how to connect, right? It's the way that we know to receive that. So the whole program is inviting women to understand men on all of the levels, and teaching them how to communicate in a way that creates and opens up more connection and attraction.
All right. So I'm gonna give you a book title, and you just say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
5 Love Languages.
I like it. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah, and I think that there's a lot more than 5, but the reason why that concept is really good is because it gets it on the radar that there's different ways that all of us value gesture. Like, speaking of gesture, as we're talking about, there's so many ways where, like, one person who, we often express affection in the ways that we would want to receive it. And what I really think is important, and why that book is important, is because it invites us to understand that the way that they know to receive and, like, can even register affection might be really different than how we do. And we can learn it. We can learn what other people like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 5 love languages are just as applicable on a professional level.
Mm-hmm.
And with your let's just say relationships outside of any intimate relationship, I think there's just as much value there. So you said you piqued me there. What you said, there's more than 5. Entertain us with 1 or 2. What are your thoughts on that? Because I
Yeah,
believe you.
absolutely. Well, I think that I could kind of spitball on this.
Yeah, let's do it together, because
Okay.
I think some of the love languages themselves can be broken down
Right.
as well. And I
Right.
believe that there are people that, regardless of what their love language is, whether it's physical touch, quality time, the gifts, acts of service, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are sex languages as well.
100%. Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
ever heard of the Erotic Blueprint?
I have.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Hold
pretty
on.
good framework.
Okay, where did I learn that from? Hit it.
Yeah. So I'm not an expert in the Erotic Blueprint, but my understanding of it, just kind of in a basic sense, is similar to the 5 love languages. It's different ways. It's like physical languages that we resonate, and there's kinky, energetic,
Yeah.
sexual, sensual. So, for example, some people sexually, in a sexual context, like, really get turned on by, like, sensory light touch, like the whole vibe that's created, the scents, the, like, the lingerie, the sensory experience of it.
Yeah.
Whereas other people who are more in the sexual blueprint, it's more about, like, the carnal act, right? It's like less about the ambiance. So it's really a helpful framework in just kind of identifying and understanding more about what turns you on in a way that you can communicate and relay and speak to that. And then also bringing curiosity to, different strokes for different folks, to speak figuratively.
Right on. Absolutely. All right. So
Yeah.
I'm going to help our audience out here a little bit. Here we go. The sensual type, someone who's turned on by all their senses. Obviously, these are going to be very, very paraphrased. The energetic type, someone who is turned on by anticipation, space, tease, longing, yearning. The sexual type, someone who is turned on by what we think of as sex in our culture. So like just good old
penetration.
sex.
Yep.
But there you go. Thank you. I was trying to be a dude. I should have just said it. Yep. The good stuff. Okay. The kinky type is someone who's turned on by the taboo. The shapeshifter is someone who's turned on by everything that the sensual, sexual, kinky, energetic. So they're just like double down on everything.
They do it all. Yeah.
This is a great topic. We won't go into too much of it here, but I hope our audience will Google that and
you can take a quiz online. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And to answer your question from before of different love languages and just kind of breaking it down from those 5, I think that for me, I know that novel experience is a love language, like the heightened emotion of experiencing something for the first time with someone, or that is really connective for me. And that, I guess we could categorize that under quality time, but I feel like it's its own thing. Just things like that that exist outside of those 5. It's really about bringing curiosity with yourself of like, what are the circumstances and ingredients that create heightened connection and attraction for you, and bringing awareness to that so that you can recreate it and let someone know how to do that for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I am, so I do a little bit of relationship coaching myself, and I'm going to run a philosophy by you. And, and if you disagree with me, 100% or 50%, by all means, let me have it, because I'm genuinely interested in your experience and your own personal thoughts. And if you agree with me, then great. We'll talk about it. So one of the things that I've noticed, and it's kind of, we're almost coming full circle here, that I've noticed with men and women, and I'm especially talking about men, and even myself, before I sort of learned this along the way, I was like totally victim of this same problem. And here it is. People tend to get overly wrapped up in what the outcome is going to be. I'm going to talk to this girl.
Yes.
But what's the outcome?
Yes.
I have a first date and it seemed to go okay, but now how do I find out if it went okay? Right? Outcome. And so here's what I tell people. Forget about the outcome. Just reality is negotiable. Oh, I love it. I'm going to be like for a week now. I'm going to use it like 10 times a day. Reality is negotiable. Cora Boyd. Just commit to the action, the gesture, the communication. Commit to the process.
Yes.
And detach completely from the outcome.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I totally agree with you.
All right, cool.
I totally agree. And that is something that I teach as well. It's like, it's really shifting the commitment from the commitment to outcome to the commitment to yourself and the commitment to showing up in accordance and integrity with what you want to create with someone. And ultimately, it's reconceiving what it means to be good at dating. And it's like, it's not about getting everyone to like you. It's actually about learning to show up as an amplified version of yourself so that you can redirect the wrong people. Like, that's part of the skill of dating, is the discernment and the redirection, which is, I use that word instead of rejection because I think that word terrifies so many people. It's just redirection. It's just information of like, okay, not there. But that completely shifts the experience. And ultimately, I mean, relationships are, they exist in a qualitative realm. It's not the same paradigm as like quantitative metrics or check boxes. It's much about our qualitative experience. And I feel like even later on in relationships, when we're coming from this mindset of outcome, it sets us up for disappointment, because then, okay, we get the outcome we want, we're in the relationship, then what? It's actually the quality of the relationship is in that word quality. It's about the qualitative experience. And going on dates too, it's not even about saying the right things. It's not about any of that. It's about someone's qualitative experience and your presence. And so much of what enhances the quality of our experience in interacting with someone is when they're enjoying themselves, which comes from, we're magnetized to that energy, someone enjoying themselves. And that comes from they're playing their own game with themselves, right? Like they have, even what you were saying of like going to the zoo or wherever it might be. And I also loved the visual of you just hanging out at the zoo. I took a little bookmark note and I was like, great, love it. I hope you actually do that.
Hey baby, what do you think of the sea lions? What do you think of these monkeys? They just monkey around.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other cheesy crap I could probably come up with. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But really what we're talking about here is, I teach a lot about magnetism and what magnetism is. And that's really what attracts people to us. It's where magnetism exists in the energy of desire, not in the energy of need. And when we're really attached to the outcome, we're kind of trying to control what happens or control how someone perceives us. It kills our magnetism, because what really magnetizes people to us is not that they need anything from, or that we need anything from them. That actually repels, right? The needy energy repels. So it's really about connecting back to yourself and connecting to the qualitative experience. And how are you showing up for this process in a way that's empowered and a way that you're enjoying the process, because that's why we want to spend time with anyone, because we enjoy being around them. And so much of why we enjoy being around someone is one, they're enjoying themselves. They're not like needing something from us. And also that they make us feel good. That's another big piece of magnetism, is it's how someone else feels about themselves in your presence. How are you able to see them and perceive them and share, put them in the spotlight too, and make them feel special.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
So, Cora, you were on a pretty big YouTube channel called Cut, and then you basically had to match people based on, if they were dating, and, you've been a matchmaker. So what are some things that you generally look at, or some cues that people might be attracted to each other, some cues that people are in a relationship? What are some of those things you initially look at?
Yeah. So when I did that video, really a lot of it was like reading their energy, and that's things that are visible. It's also kind of like things that are just like were minutely perceptible to me, of like how just doing what I do and kind of the experience that I've had getting a good read on people's energies, and like seeing, okay, how does this person dress? What can I infer about this person? Like very quickly, just kind of putting these things together of like, okay, what do I infer about this person and what they value based on how they're choosing to present themselves? And what might they, because of that, like what might they value in another person? So a lot of visual indicators, a lot of the energy that I saw between them of like, how was I seeing attraction in their interactions with each other? And then honestly, just like the intuitive read of all of that is what I was looking for when I did that video. So yeah, a lot of it's just kind of scanning and processing a lot of like energetic and visual indicators. And then just making a call.
Yeah. So, and along those lines, so for our audience, like, what's something that they can take away from that, or the experience that you learned that how might I sit here and say, oh, this person's into me, or how do I know that I'm into that person, or how do they just even begin reading a situation like that to be able to apply that to their dating life?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another big theme that I notice, and kind of something that really helps people step into more confidence in dating is when they learn to read feedback from other people. And I have a whole module on that in Flirt Harder. Because I have really noticed that you know, when you're not confident and can I read this feedback from someone, you're not sure what indications to look for that they might be interested. It can feel like a shot in the dark. And what I want people to remember is that I call them, with my clients, micro risks. And I guess sometimes they're bigger macro risks, but risk is part of dating. Like that uncertainty in flirting, like of not fully knowing, like, are they into me? Right. And flirting in itself being an exploration of that possibility. So first, embracing the uncertainty and knowing that actually you're not going to know for sure, and just continuing to put forth the interest or express the interest, or like put forth feelers, where those feelers are, you're putting them out with the intention to express interest. So they're registering that you're interested. And then from that, they can give you feedback that they're interested, but it's really watching how someone is engaging with you. So are they engaged? Are they present? Is their body language facing you? Are they, looking over their shoulders? Or, it's looking for indications that there's engagement, there's intrigue, and there's interest. So really just looking at, okay, how do people behave when they're interested? They're present, they're focused, they're they're making eye contact, their body is facing you, or they're picking up what you're putting down, right? If you say something flirtatious, they are holding the tension of that, holding the energy of that with you, and ideally serving it back to you. So a lot of how we read the feedback is that we give feedback and we observe how someone else engages with that. And that does take risk. It takes vulnerability to put something forward, because the way that I think of it is like, sometimes in a dating dynamic, it can be like people at a four-way stop waiting the other person to go and no one's doing anything. It's a similar thing in dating where
that's a great analogy.
Thank you.
I'm going to use that. I'm stealing that. That's good.
I think it was actually I'm a natural blonde. I'm a former blonde, and I actually think it's a dumb blonde joke of four blondes at a four-way stop. That's where I got that from. And no one's doing anything. So that's awesome. But it's really like putting forward that, okay, like, they might be doing the same thing where they're waiting for feedback from you before they feel safe to express. So a great way to gauge interest is to show interest and to see how they engage with it.
Oh, wow. We need to go to that seafood place and shuck some oysters and have about another 4-hour conversation just like this one. Body language. Oh my gosh. What a huge topic. Talking about the four-way, like when there's, so I actually have this thing in my book where I actually say, listen, everybody's going to have a moment of silence. There's going to be that awkward moment. Mm-hmm. And in the sales world, I actually coach people that whoever talks first in that moment loses.
Mm-hmm. Hold the tension.
Right. That's in sales. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily say that in the world of dating and relationships, especially in dating. However, what I do say is that moment is precious. Mm. That moment is valuable. Mm-hmm. Because it's fun to see and experience what that moment. Well, first of all, how long does it last? Because
Yeah.
I can let an awkward or silent moment. I'll never be the first one. I'll never be the first one to talk, because that moment of uncertainty and
Mhm.
tension, like, oh, that's like swimming in shark infested waters with no cage and you're wearing a chum swimsuit, and I love it. I live for those moments. I love them.
Yeah.
Well, hey, look, I know we're getting kind of long here. We could talk all day. I want to say thank you for coming today. And I want to tell our audience to definitely reach out to you. What's your favorite social media platform for people to follow you? Is it Instagram?
Instagram for sure. And I'm at Cora Boyd.
Okay, cool. And then your website, one more time.
CoraBoydCoaching.com.
Okay. Well, I've had an absolutely wonderful time. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I'm going to continue to listen to some of because I was on like your very first show that I watched on or listened to on Spotify, and I picked up that reality is negotiable, and it has stuck with me for like the last day, and I've just been waiting to talk to you about it. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great qualitative experience here with you.
And I want you to know I received that. Touchdown.